Hi, Beth. Thanks for joining me. Lucky to have you today on this International Women's Day session focusing on equality, equity, and women. Please tell me a little bit about yourself and your occupation at ProvenWorks.
Yeah, sure. So I'm Beth, and I have been in the tech industry for almost 10 years. So I started actually doing tech at university. So I did a degree in information technology, and since then I've had a career in tech. And I work at ProvenWorks as an operations director. So yeah, essentially wearing many hats, and yeah, a fond lover of processes as well.
That's amazing. And what motivated you to pursue a career in tech? You've been in tech for quite a bit of time actually as well. And in that process, have you encountered any unique experiences as a woman in this field?
So actually, my sort of journey into tech started in secondary school or high school, and I was encouraged. I think it was how old? Probably about when I was about 13 years old. My teacher of my IT class was a woman, and she was really pushing me to sort of do a lot more in class, and I really enjoyed all the projects and was encouraged to do my exams a year early. So I was sort of really pushed out of my comfort zone there. And having done that and like really enjoyed it, it led to me studying IT in secondary school as well. And sort of secondary school, college. So throughout college, I was studying IT there. And it was kind of a no-brainer to then continue it at university. And still really enjoyed it throughout uni. And it was in my first year of university, I was offered a part-time job at a real software company, which is yeah, a lot nicer than sort of your standard uni jobs that you can get. And have actually been at the same company ever since. And I it's kind of not since looking back this week on my journey into tech that I think my motivation actually came from that female influence. I don't know, looking back, whether I'd have been pushed out of my comfort zone, whether I would have actually pursued this career. So yeah, it's been a real like nice realization to see that's how I got into tech.
Oh, that sounds amazing. And how have you seen the industry change over the years in terms of gender equality and equity? So, what progress do you think has been made and what still needs to be done?
So actually when I did first start my part-time job at a real software company at uni, I was the only woman. So I mean, we were about four people, so I didn't really have a huge amount of people
Fair.
there. Um, but yeah, I was the only woman, and now to see us almost 9 years later, we're like just over a third women now. So seeing that firsthand, and I don't know, maybe me joining as a woman, hopefully encouraged other women to join as well. But seeing that shift has been really great. And I think when I had my first calls with customers when I first started, about 90% of the time it would be very male dominated. And now that shift of like when I have a call over probably the last like 3 years, I don't think it's very rare that there's not a female on the call as well. So yeah, definitely a shift in like more females being in the tech space for sure.
Well, definitely sounds amazing. And how do you balance advocating for equality and equity in the workplace, with the potential backlash or indifferences that can come from colleagues who maybe may not understand or support these values, or they're just new to this concept? We're at a great space, obviously, being women in tech, but how do you think you see other women maybe balancing it, or how do you yourself balance that?
So what I sometimes find is that if somebody's like not getting behind your values, or if they're struggling to understand your point of view, Often I think it comes from maybe them misunderstanding what you're saying, or not having enough information to understand the reason behind your values. So for sort of mitigating any potential arguments or any conflict surrounding sort of values, I think making sure that individuals have the right information provided to them, and maybe if there's like case studies that can back up what you're trying to say, or information from other sources, I think that can go a really long way. And making sure that the conversation that you have with them when you approach this situation, definitely like having it as a very neutral, non-aggressive discussion, because the last thing you want to do is cause arguments or cause a stir, because it's only ever going to go one way. So yeah, definitely backing up what you're saying, and finding out the real reason why there's that sort of miscommunication or potential like misunderstanding going on there.
Yeah, I also did find it quite useful myself when you speak with certain facts and data. I mean, I'm not saying it because we're data experts, but it's always useful speaking with data in hand and backing your thoughts up with the process or the research behind it. It's always much more useful and meaningful. And again, it helps you avoid fights as well, or certain
Absolutely.
arguments because, yeah, you're speaking from a point of research.
Hmm.
Well, that's great. And it's a very important question for
Hmm.
myself as well. So, what advice would you give to other women who are interested in pursuing a career in tech, maybe women who are, newly starting? What advice would you give them, from based on your experience? And it
Hmm.
might be something that you discovered that helped you massively, or it might be a simple past mistake that taught you a great deal, something that's been quite influential for yourself.
So thankfully, because we work together, I was able to steal these questions from you beforehand, and it gave me a bit of time to think about this because I really wanted to like hammer home some key points. So I've got three, and the first one is sort of my piece of advice that I would like to give is to never stop pushing yourself out of your comfort zone. And I think Denise, you and I like we love to challenge ourselves, and it's so great, like just to keep pushing, and like that feeling of when you've achieved that certain goal, there's sort of no better feeling. And I think if you're struggling to do it, have somebody that's going to hold you accountable for it. So even if it's asking a friend, like, could you just, nudge me once a month? What have you done that's been out of your comfort zone? That's going to really help you. My second point is to own your mistakes. So everyone makes mistakes. It doesn't matter. Just make sure that you don't sort of get in a bit of a fluster because you've done it. Think, okay, well, why did I make that mistake? How could I not make it happen again? And speak to your manager. Like, is there anything that they could do to help you? And should you have, looked at other resources or done something to mitigate that? And my third point is to um, make sure that if there's ever something you don't know the answer to, just ask. And I speak from experience. Like I've been in meetings where it's been all men, and it's when everybody's sort of talking and they're talking about something you don't know about, or there's acronyms, it can be really easy to just be like, yeah, I know what you're talking about. You don't want to be the one to be like, could you explain that, when someone else probably doesn't know either. So yeah, don't ever be afraid of asking the question, and you never know that next time if somebody says, what's that, you might be the one to be like, yeah, I know what that is. So yeah, those are my three sort of key take home points that I want to get across for that.
Love it. So push yourself outside of your comfort zone, own up to your mistakes. And this, I like it when you do it, before things blow up. So you realize you make a mistake, just go back and say, hey, there's been a mistake.
Hmm.
Apologies. How can we fix? And then, yeah, always be up for a challenge. Don't be scared to ask questions. I love it. That's super useful. Thank you so much for joining me today to celebrate International Women's Day. It has been a pleasure to learn about your experiences and perspectives. We do work together, but it's always useful, getting together and focusing on that on that matter. And our gathering today was made possible by ProvenWorks and Women in Tech Forum, who have been tireless in their efforts to promote gender equality and empower women in the tech industry. As we conclude this interview, let us all commit ourselves to continue the important work of advancing women's rights and promoting gender equality.